Kia ora, everybody.
Kia ora podcast. I was going to say bookies.
I
I did that last time.
We just want to talk to the book club all the time, but guys, we love you like general sister as well. We are doing a deep dive podcast today on something that Abby has been asking me to do for a long time.
Yes.
Essentially, I am going to be teaching Abby about all the different like isms and ocracies of the world, like all the political systems and the economic systems, how they work together, what countries are displaying signs of what. And I'm going to really try and make it fun and easy to understand, because this is like the foundation of the world,
Yes.
but also the foundation of so many news stories and things like that. And it's like, well, if we don't understand this, it's really hard for us to understand the rest.
Yeah, because there's so many, well, they're not buzzwords, they're literal words, but like, it's like, yes, and this person, yes, communist.
Yeah.
Yes, and this person has been using socialism to do this. And I'm like, I can't keep up.
And what do they all mean?
And then new ones will pop up and I'm like, never heard that before.
I know. So we're only going to do the main ones. We're not going to do all the like, there are so many isms and ocracies that are
the popular ones. The popular isms.
So Abby, I want you to imagine, and this will be easy for you, that you've never heard a single word of political theory in your life.
Okay, done.
Okay, easy.
Oh, done.
Oh, wiped. So I feel like you're the ideal student, and I'm not sure if I'm the ideal teacher, but I did study this. Okay, I studied political science and international relations.
Okay.
And this is kind of nice for me because I feel like I don't get to like use that part of my brain very often, except for it's good underlying knowledge for me when I'm reading or talking about or writing the news. So for basically all of human history, and this is a lot for you to take in, there have been two big questions. One, who's in charge? Two, who gets all the stuff? Like, who gets all the money?
Yes.
Where does it all go? So who's in charge and who gets all the stuff? So every single political and economic system are just trying to answer those questions.
Okay.
Who is in charge? Who gets all the stuff? How is it being distributed? Blah, blah, blah. But before we get into me going through like democracy and socialism and communism and all of that kind of stuff, I need to say something to try and help this make a bit more sense to everyone listening and to you. So the categories that I'm going to be talking about, they aren't just like boxes that countries fit into a single box. Like you can be multiple of these things.
Okay.
It's not like you're going to hear about like Russia, which is a dictatorship. It's also an oligarchy. It's also authoritarian.
Oh.
So it's not just like you are a perfect example of this. It's like, no, it's kind of like all these things make up a recipe of a country.
Right.
The reason it's so important for us to have these names or categories is so that when we start seeing countries slip into certain things, like you have words to explain it, like maybe you were an amazing democracy where everyone had a vote, and then you start slipping into like authoritarianism, which you'll find out is where one person thinks they should have all the power. And so it's just very important that we have these names, but no country is just like one thing.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you examples of countries that are all of these things. And if you hear Russia being brought up a lot, it's because it fits into a lot of these categories.
Okay.
But I just thought it was helpful to point out that, not every country has just one like economic system and one political system. A lot of them have like facets of each other. Another example is North Korea is a dictatorship and authoritarian and technically communist, but not really communist. It's like they have a lot of things. Okay. Anyway, we are going to start easy. We're going to start with democracy.
Yep.
So this is the one that we are all led to believe and told is the good one. You want to be a democracy. Democracy basically means that all the people get a say in who runs the country. You vote, your vote gets counted, the person with the most votes wins, they govern, and then you get to vote again and kick them out of their shit.
Yep.
Democracy, if it's working well, is the thing that's proven to be the best way of ruling a country. So countries that are doing democracy well, at the top of basically every democracy ranking each year is Norway, New Zealand, Sweden, Finland, Iceland.
Okay.
So these are countries that is like the elections are pretty transparent. You can vote.
Yes.
And you know that if you want a new leader, you can vote and hopefully get a new leader. So Norway and New Zealand are pretty consistently at the very top of this list. The reason is quite specific. It's because we have strong independent courts that can't be stacked. Like you remember when I told you about the Supreme Court, Trump putting his people? We have courts that can't be stacked.
Okay.
We have a press that isn't owned by just one billionaire and isn't owned by the government. We have multiple press outlets so they can all report on what's happening in the government. We have elections that are free and fair. And crucially, we have a culture where if you and when you lose an election, you leave. Like that last one is very important. Like if you lose an election, you step down.
Yes.
And that is what some countries are starting to not want to do. They're not wanting to lose elections. They're saying they're rigged. They're saying that this wasn't true, that it's crooked.
That they're going to run for more years when they actually can't.
Yeah. Also, very important to note that there are different types of democracy. So, like in the US, they have this, well, they think they have the best democracy. They have like a really old kind of type of democracy.
Right.
Which kind of needs to be changed, but they're hell-bent on keeping it or moving away from a democracy. And like, whereas in New Zealand, we have like MMP and like a whole different set of guardrails, which means that our democracy works different to other democracies and some would say better because there are rules in place like you can only start campaigning a certain amount of time before you know the election. So it's not like we're living in constant hell of people being like, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me. So,
I'd actually hate that.
I know.
Like it's bad enough during election time.
That's what the US is like.
Yeah.
Picket signs out all the time.
All their ads are campaigns.
Yeah.
And
so it is important to note that, yes, while I'm saying like a lot of these countries have democracies, even within those countries, and I'm not going to get into all of them because that's a lot, have different systems, guardrails, like amount of votes you need, blah, 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 blah. So now I'm going to talk to you about countries that are doing it badly and calling it democracy. So these are... Honestly, these are really dangerous because they have elections. It looks like a democracy, but the elections are rigged, essentially. So on paper, they look like democracies. In practice, they're not.
Yeah.
So Russia is a democracy.
Okay.
On paper. It has elections.
Yeah.
Putin pops up on a ballot. The people can vote. The issue here is anyone that runs against him ends up in prison or exiled or dead. So that's
that's not democracy, is it?
No. So the media is state controlled. So like the government controls the media. So obviously they're just going to say what they want. Independent journalism and journalists are basically like killed or exiled, you know. The ones that aren't killed basically self-censor because they're scared of what
getting
happened.
Killed.
Yeah.
Right.
So essentially Putin has controlled the country for 25 years. All of his serious opponents are dead or locked up. The press can't report on it freely. And the results consistently show him winning the elections with like 87% of the vote, which just doesn't happen. So these elections are fraudulent.
Yeah.
So that's a bad democracy. Hungary is actually interesting. We've talked about this on the podcast before. It's actually had a plot twist recently. So Viktor Orban, he basically spent 16 years dismantling democracy from the inside. So he won a legit election in 2010, was voted in, then used his parliamentary majority to rewrite the constitution, stack the courts in his favour, redraw electoral boundaries, and shut down basically every independent media outlet in the country. So he took it from a legitimate win in a democracy to now that I'm in, let me change everything. And so it became a fraudulent democracy.
Oh my God.
But then in April this year, 2026, Hungarian voters voted in Peter Magyar. Do you remember us talking about this?
I do.
So this was crazy because even though Viktor Orban had done all these things to try and keep himself in power, the one powerful thing is the people that mobilized, voted, and actually tossed him out.
Wow.
So this Hungary, political scientists were obsessed with Hungary because they watched a legitimate democracy go to a fucked up one and then kind of come back. We don't know how this is going to go. We don't know how good Magyar's going to be, but that's kind of hopeful. And then we have the United States. So America has spent the last 80 years telling the rest of the world that they are the best democracy in the world, that this is exactly how democracy is supposed to work.
Okay.
And it actually has genuinely been a good democracy.
Yeah.
With good institutions like the press and all that. The question right now is whether these institutions are surviving, whether democracy is actually surviving. Donald Trump is obviously the president.
Does he say he's democratic?
Yeah, they think they're democratic. They do.
It's delusional.
But I'm going to explain what's kind of happening in the US in as simpler terms as I can. So there's an organization called VDEM, which is a group of political scientists, and their whole job is to measure how democratic each country actually is. Okay. In 2026, they released a report saying that Trump's second term is dismantling democracy faster than Vladimir Putin did and faster than Orban did in Hungary. So this is a group of people that study democracy, and they are saying that in Trump's second term, he's dismantling it faster than these historic, terrible democracies.
Does Trump know this?
It's his dream. Because if he dismantles democracy, it means that when people try to vote, it doesn't matter. So this is in practice, this is what Trump has done to dismantle democracy. I actually wrote a whole newsletter about the worst things Trump's done for democracy. He's stacked the federal courts. He has basically filled his government agencies with personal friends and loyalists. As we know, he hires people that are only pro-Trump. Universities and law firms and media organizations that have criticized the administration have had federal funding pulled. Again, this is all not new. Immigrants are being detained without the legal process that actually refers to is in the Constitution. Yeah. The Justice Department is basically no longer independent. It's being used to go after his political opponents. And Congress, which is supposed to be a separate branch of the government and has oversight over the president, has mostly stopped doing their job. So American democracy is being dismantled before our eyes. And basically, that is a really, really quick overview of what democracy is meant to be.
Yes.
Everyone gets a vote. You pick a winner. If you don't want them to be the winner and you don't want them to govern, they leave.
Yes.
That's a good democracy.
Yes.
We have about 25% of the countries in the world are actually showing us a real democracy.
Right.
So let's talk about the rest of the countries. Authoritarianism is the next one I want to talk to you about, okay? This is when the people running the country decide that staying in power is more important than the rules, the laws, and human rights. Ooh. So this is like dictatorship light.
Yes.
Light version. So this is authoritarianism is what people are saying that America is moving into.
I was going to say sounds like what Trump's swaying towards.
And so you'll find that after we start learning what these things mean, when you read news articles or whatever that are saying like the threat of authoritarianism is real. It's like, oh, that's not actually just this mystifying buzzword.
Yes.
It's like, this is freaky.
Yeah.
So yes, the people running the country want power above all else. Like they don't care about the laws essentially. Authoritarianism, easy to remember because just think about authority. Utmost authority. So they control the media. They punish anyone who speaks out. They rewrite the rules to keep themselves in charge, and they have like often a really strong security force that's like backing them up. So multiple independent organizations have been studying the US, and they do say that the US is actively moving towards authoritarianism faster than any country in modern history. So like we're watching this happen in front of our eyes, and we will see what happens. Like think about when Obama in his term, even Joe Biden, showed us what a democracy was.
Yes.
You don't say the elections are rigged.
Yes.
You don't stack, they always kind of stack the courts, but like you don't block media from being able to come in and report on the White House. Trump is different. So I wonder when Trump's out, will it move back? Probably. Because
it depends who's next,
Trump is such a strong man. Without that authoritative figure.
It is freaky as hell that one man can change the history of a whole nation as big as America.
Yes. I know.
That is not right.
And it's like, it's not just America. The reason they're such a case study is because they were a good democracy.
Yes.
And now they're not.
This one man
it's
coming in like...
There's always a man. There's Hitler. There's Maduro. There's Orban. It's always a fucking man. So other countries that have authoritarian regimes, China, so the government under Xi Jinping, he changed the rules in 2018 so he could stay in power forever. He has built one of the most sophisticated surveillance states in human history with facial recognition, etc. He basically has he wants to be like the authority in there that even like billionaires in the country who in other countries like America have lots of power, they often disappear for like months on end and then come back like scared and like nothing happened and we just don't know. So China, authoritarianism.
Okay.
North Korea, under Kim Jong-un, the state controls where you live, where you work, what information you can access. And this is like, we know that North Korea is one of the worst sort of types of government place to live, blah, 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 blah. So this is why, like, you know, authoritarianism and dictatorship go hand in hand.
I was going to say, what's the difference? Because I thought North Korea was dictatorship.
Well, it is. It's also authoritarian.
Oh, okay.
So we'll get to that. Basically, the entire country in North Korea is built around worshipping the Kim family. Expressing anything other than total devotion, not an option. So Russia, also authoritarianism. Journalists who report critically on the government get killed, opposition leaders get poisoned or in prison, and just it's Russia. We know what goes on there. Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy, which is run by the royal family. So this is a monarchy and it's authoritarian. They have no elections, no political parties, and no free press. Saudi Arabia is a really closed place to live. We also have Belarus, we have Iran, and these countries. The most worrying one, all of these are worrying, but they have been worrying. America is worrying because it's moving into this quite quickly. So a dictatorship is authoritarianism with one specific person at the top.
Oh, okay.
So like Trump and his MAGA allies and stuff. Authoritarianism, they all want to be in power. They all want to be at the top. They don't let go of power. Yeah. Dictatorship,
genuinely one person's
genuinely
values and
your dictator. Yeah. So the key feature of this is obviously that one person calls all the shots and there is no real way to remove them without like them dying or a revolution, like overthrowing the country. So a dictatorship is like, again, authoritarianism is like dictatorship light. So how do people become dictators, you might be wondering, if they can't be removed without like a revolution or their death? It could be a military general who overthrew the government and just took power. Could be someone who was elected once and then refused to leave.
Yeah.
It could be someone that just got the job from their dad, like passed on to their family. But yeah, some dictators start out elected, and then that's what we're seeing with these like institutions all being slashed and blah, blah, blah. Then they move into dictatorship.
Do we have any dictators in the world?
Kim Jong-un is
he is. Right,
yep. Supreme leader. He inherited the position from his father. It's basically like his rule.
Right. And then his family would get, if he dies, it'd be his family.
Well, yeah, we've seen his daughter, remember, being primed for. Not sure. Well, because we don't know anything that the state media doesn't report on. So we don't know.
Okay.
And then we also have Alexander Lukashenko in Belarus.
Yeah.
He is a dictator. He's been president since 1994. In 2020, he lost an election. And like by every single credible, independent like account, he should have lost and like stepped down.
Right.
He declared himself the winner anyway. Hundreds of thousands of people protested. He had them arrested. He had them tortured. He is still there.
Hundreds of thousands. Holy shit.
So me and Squish covered this on the shit show in 2020 when it was actually happening. And it was huge that he didn't win the election.
Yeah.
But he remains. Speaking of dictators, I mean, he doesn't exist in the world today, thank fucking God, but Hitler was actually elected. He was elected.
I did not know that.
And moved in to dictator and then became the worst motherfucker in
did not
the world.
know that. I thought he overthrew the government basically with an army, but he snuck in.
Well, he didn't even have to sneak. He got fucking voted in. So there are currently 49 dictatorships and authoritarian regimes in the world.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So everyone.
Okay, I was going to say before, good there's only one or two dictators in the world right now. Okay, 50.
Basically, well, I mean, this is, I think a lot of dictatorships is like, they're not, these countries aren't going to call themselves dictatorships.
Yes.
It's a bit,
it's kind of like an assessment from organisations.
And a lot of these, to be honest, all of this is assessments from the people living there, what the press is saying, the organisations. Like, no country is like, well, I mean, democratic countries are pretty obviously democratic, communism, the same, but no country is going to be like, we are an authoritarian regime.
Yes.
Maybe some are, but it's a label put on you to help us all make sense of the world.
I like it. I like the system.
It's a good system. Okay, next we have oligarchy.
I've heard the word. No, I couldn't even guess.
Okay. I don't think I could guess either if I didn't know, but oligarchy is basically when a small group of people, usually really fucking rich people, control everything. So it's not one person, it's not the public, it's like a small group of elite.
It has to do with money, with wealth.
Or like wealth or just elitism. So elections could still happen and laws could still exist, but the people writing the laws and funding the elections are the same small group of people who basically are never affected by any of it.
Wow.
So Russia is, again, a textbook example of this. They are a democracy on paper. They're a democracy on paper. They're authoritarianism by nature.
Yeah, I was going to say, are Russia okay?
Russia not okay.
What the
Obviously,
hell?
Russia not okay, but basically, but in practice, in Russia, a handful of extremely rich men called oligarchs run the economy. The government protects their wealth, and then they protect the government right back. So it's a closed loop.
They like Putin, and they
because they can boss him around.
Yes.
So the question here is, and that's what lots of people are asking, is the USA becoming an oligarchy because they have more billionaires than any country in the world? Several of them are now, like, think about Elon Musk and Donald Trump and their friendship, and Musk.
Oh, that was a weird era of Elon being in the White House.
Yeah, Elon was in the White House.
Yeah, paying for everything and...
But he still is friends with Trump. And, like, Trump has dinners for, like, Mark Zuckerberg and all these tech bros. And so what happens is, and this is kind of like Succession, like, Trump gets in because all these people have helped pay for his campaign.
Yes.
They want him to get in because then they can control him and reduce their taxes.
Yeah.
It'll let all their fucked up business ideas get through.
And it is elitism because it's all money.
Well, it's all money. And, like, so it means the people with the most money get the most political access and then they benefit from it. It's just like it is a loop. So at some point, I mean, I'm not the first one to ask this question. A lot of people are. People are asking, is the US
Wow. Like when
or was it moving into
Who's assessing? Who's assessing that?
Yeah. Abby's like, I'm monitoring the situation now.
I'm monitoring the situation.
Then we have fascism.
Yes.
You've heard of fascism?
Yes, of course.
Fascism is an authoritarian, ultra-nationalistic, like ultra-patriotic, that's what nationalism is, ideology where the state comes above everything, even individual rights. So fascism is like country first.
Yes.
Country over people.
Okay, is America fascist?
Well, is America everything?
Literally, America and Russia.
Well,
tick, tick, tick.
Why don't we find out? Fascism is usually led by a strongman figure who presents himself as the embodiment of the nation. It's a heavily militarized country. It blames minority groups for the country's problems, suppresses the free press, and is obsessed with a mythological version of the nation's past that it claims to be the golden age that they are restoring. This golden age probably never existed, but one leader is sure he can, I'm saying he, can bring it back. So the crucial thing about fascism is that it uses democracy to get into power, to get this leader into power, and then it destroys all those systems that allowed it in. So Nazi Germany is the clearest historical example. Hitler was appointed chancellor through legitimate processes.
Right.
And then using existing systems to gain power, he eliminated all those systems. But I am going to let you decide, and listeners, I'm going to let you decide who or what country do you think is showing signs of fascism today based on all those things I've just said.
Yeah, America, but because I always see people say we're heading towards fascism. Yeah. And so now when you lay it out like that, it's so, now I get it. Yeah. The people are right.
Yeah. And then we have a few, I don't know if they're less common, but less talked about in the media. So we have theocracy. Theocracy is when the government is run according to religious law and religious leaders. The religious leaders are the ones that hold political authority. So the law of the land is the law of God. It is interpreted by whoever is currently in charge of deciding what God wants. So you have a religious leader at the top. Iran is the clearest current example of this. So there is a supreme leader of Iran, which is held by a religious leader. It holds, like, even if they have a president or whatever, the supreme leader is the one that has God's will.
Yes.
So they are at the very top. Laws are based on their interpretation of Islamic law. Religious courts can override political courts. Saudi Arabia actually operates similarly. The royal family governs according to their interpretation of Islamic law. Dissent isn't tolerated. You also have Afghanistan under the Taliban, who retook control in 2021. Women in Afghanistan, as we know, can't leave their homes without a man's permission because a theocracy has decided that's what God wants.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Religious. So the problem is obviously always whose interpretation wins. There are over 1.8 billion Muslims. They do not all agree on what Islamic law requires.
Exactly.
There are 2.4 billion Christians who famously do not agree on what their faith demands of them. So giving one person and one interpretation the power of the whole state.
So dangerous.
Yeah. So theocracy.
And that should not lead people's individual lives like that.
Absolutely.
That's scary.
Then we have monarchy, one that we know well in New Zealand, which is a system where a single person, a king or a queen, holds the highest political authority, usually by inheriting it. There are two very different versions of monarchy. So you have The absolute monarchy, which is where the monarch actually has total power. There's no parliament, no courts that can overrule them, and no elections. So Saudi Arabia actually operates as an absolute monarchy. The royal family hold all the meaningful political and military.
It's very medieval.
Yes, I know. Historical examples include pretty much every European kingdom before the 1700s. But now what we have is a constitutional monarchy, which is completely different. The UK, Sweden, Denmark, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Australia, we all have monarchs, but these monarchs have no political power.
Yes, thank God.
They are ceremonial. The actual governing is, as we know, done by a prime minister or the parliament. So New Zealand's head of state is like technically King Charles III. Not my king. He doesn't run the country, the prime minister does. Also not my king, but
yeah.
So monarchies are basically democracies with a royal family on top that like cut the ribbon at the ceremony. And then two more. Kleptocracy. What does do you know what klepto means?
Stealing.
Ding, ding, ding. Klepto means thief. A kleptocracy is a government of thieves. Leaders use political power to steal public wealth for themselves and their allies. This is like very corrupt countries, lots of embezzlement, or they just write laws that funnel money directly to themselves. So we have the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is one of the most resource-rich countries on earth. They have massive amounts of cobalt, gold, coltan, which is a mineral in like every smartphone.
Yeah.
Yet it is one of the poorest countries in the world in terms of what their actual citizens have, because the wealth gets extracted and stolen by whoever has military and political control. This is the same in Equatorial Guinea. And then we have you ever heard of a military junta?
No. Junta.
Junta. It's spelled Junta, but it's pronounced junta. So I knew about this because I went to Myanmar when I was younger and I became obsessed with like Myanmar because they had been through so much shit. We did not hear about it here in New Zealand. And then since running Siska, they had a military junta, which is essentially the military takes over the government. So the military overthrows the government, usually through a coup, which is when power is like seized and taken instead of an election. Yeah. It's just like, okay, we're going to turn against you and take over. So basically constitutions get suspended, parliaments get dissolved, elections get cancelled. Myanmar is the most prominent current example. They had been slowly transitioning towards democracy. They had this amazing woman called Aung San Suu Kyi who she actually won the Nobel Prize for Peace because she was taking Myanmar towards democracy. Yeah. So they held elections in 2020 and the Democratic Party won in a landslide. But then in February of 2021, the military just refused to accept this and staged a coup. So the elected leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, was arrested.
Oh my God.
The military took control. Pro-democracy protesters were shot in the streets, and it is now a full military-run country and like a humanitarian catastrophe. Before that, there was already like ethnic cleansing happening in the country.
Right.
And so many, like millions of people have had to flee. But so they're a full military-run country.
So is it like one guy in charge of the military or is it like a group of people in charge that they're just like, come on men? Because like surely it's not the soldiers.
Well,
like they're just being told.
Yeah. So it'll be like a general at the top or a group of them at the top.
And they've just decided, hey, we're going to use our violent force.
Yes.
That's so scary.
Sudan has also been under military rule following a coup in 2021 as well, which then this descended into a civil war between two like rival military factions.
Oh my God.
Over 50,000 people have died so far and millions have been displaced. Yeah. So Myanmar and Sudan are under military rule right now. That is political systems.
That was really good.
Do you feel like now you understand more? I mean, you can go back and listen to this podcast if you forget, but I feel like it's like democracy, good, everyone votes. Authoritarianism is dictatorship light. Dictatorship, one man controls everything.
Yeah.
Monarchy, we got the rest of them. Theocracy, oligarchy, rich people.
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned heaps.
I know,
doing this.
because I hear these buzzwords, well, they feel like buzzwords.
Yeah.
I don't know what they mean because they just get thrown into everything. But having them in a list with the description is how my brain's like, oh, okay, now I'll recognize them.
And it is helpful to know that one country is not just one thing.
Yes, that's really interesting because then I thought it was like China was communist, but then people would like say something like
they have a dictator.
Or dictate. And I'm,
Yeah. Okay, well, the first issue you've got there is that communism is an economic system.
Yes.
Everything else that I just gave you, political system. So these are two different things. Yeah. Communism, though, is interesting because it's also kind of a way of living. First, now that we've done the political systems, we're going to talk about the economic side of things, which is, it's all very intertwined, but economic systems essentially are like talking about the money, the lifestyle, whether people can afford rent, healthcare, retiring, the actual like governing aside
who gets the stuff.
Who gets the stuff? Yeah, who gets the stuff? So capitalism is the first one we're going to talk about. This is the system where things are privately owned. We all own different shit. And the market decides what things cost. So, for example, because I know the market sounds like just this, like, what is the market? Your local cafe can charge $7 for a flat white. And that is not because the government told us to, like the government didn't set that price, but because they can and people are paying for it. So the market is saying, the market, us, is saying $7, I'm going to pay for it.
Yeah.
That is capitalism. If another cafe opened next door and charged $5, maybe this first cafe would lower its prices to match that, and then the market's saying, okay, this is worth $5 now. So that is the market working as intended. That is not always the case. Often, like, the new cafe will open and it'll be the same price, and then something will happen and everything will just get more expensive. But capitalism, like, most of the world runs on a version of capitalism. It's the dominant global economic system. It is the only system that is proven to work. Like, everyone hates on capitalism, but there is nothing else that works. Like, I'm not like a pro-capitalism supporter, but I am just like, show me something that works better and show us a country that's done it better. Late-stage capitalism is like depressing as fuck. This is like America. Yeah. The richest country in the history of the world, but people are having to ration insulin because they can't afford it.
Yes.
But then this also ties into their leader and what he gives a shit about. But healthcare being a product and like the people that clean the hospitals not being able to afford to stay in one, that is the problem with late stage capitalism. That's not how it was meant to work.
Yes.
That like
so is capitalism where people talk about the trickle down effect that they used to talk about?
Which
like
never happened.
Which never happened.
It was just like capitalism is great to breed a world of entrepreneurs. It caused a lot of problems which then created people to fix them, which I think we're now in the era of everyone fixing the problems that happened. But capitalism is just the dominant global sort of economic structure. It is not a bad word. It's not a filthy word. Everyone, I think, mixes late stage capitalism in with like, but also maybe I'm sounding pro-capitalist because that's the society we live in, and I'm very like, you have like to fight against it. We're still within it. So I'm like, fuck. But anyway, that's why people like socialism. Socialism, which we have people like Hassan Piker and Bernie Sanders who are fighting for socialism. Actually, Zoran Mamdani has socialist ideals.
Okay.
You can put in socialist ideals in your way of working, living, governing, whatever. Socialism says that the important stuff, things like healthcare and housing, transport, energy, they shouldn't be privately owned by billionaires trying to make a profit.
Yes.
So socialism is like ideally and like a utopia. Great. Why wouldn't everyone want that? That's so good. It should be either owned collectively by the government or the workers, and like it it shouldn't be basically just like these things, healthcare and stuff, shouldn't be just based on like shareholders getting more money.
Yeah.
So this doesn't mean that no one owns anything themselves, like private stuff still exists. It just means the things that society needs fundamentally, socialism, should be not a business. They should be owned by a collective of people. So people doing socialism well, the Nordic countries like Norway, Sweden, Denmark and Finland are constantly held up as proof that socialism works. So you know how they have like, it's always like they get so much paternity leave and they can take mental health days that are paid and they can blah, blah, blah because everything's collectively owned, not privately owned. Although conservatives do say that these countries aren't really socialist, and actually the Danish Prime Minister famously gave a speech saying that Denmark is not socialist. I don't really know why.
The assessment was wrong.
Yeah. But I just think like you can kind of call it what you want, but in Norway, like the government owns significant stakes in the industries like oil and energy, and then they use that money to fund like they have like the best healthcare system in the world. The people are like not drowning in student debt, they're living longer. Like socialist ideals, whether you label them socialism or not, or you just say the state owns this shit and then like gives the money out properly, it works.
Yes.
Like it works. And so that's why people running on with socialist ideals, conservatives are like, it doesn't work, it's not or like entrepreneurs or billionaires are like, I want to own this and I want this. But it's a pretty good utopia. It's I think we should all have whatever system we operate in, socialist ideals are good for everyone.
Yeah, makes sense.
Unless you want to be mega rich. Communism. In theory, communism is a society with no private property, no class systems. Everyone contributes what they can and takes what they need. No billionaires, no poverty. Everyone owns everything.
Yes.
This has never worked. This is like a theory.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work, and it has been attempted in practice, but it requires an authoritarian government to enforce it.
Okay.
Because like if you're going to have everyone voting on everything, not everyone's going to vote on like we all need to be given the same amount of this and this and this. It basically requires a government to be like, you get this, you get this, you get this. And then what always happens is those authoritarians at the top have way more money and way more everything than what they're dishing out. So these governments, for that reason, have always become really corrupt. And like they get all the money. Like this happened in the Soviet Union, China, North Korea. Communism is kind of like a group project where everyone is supposed to contribute equally.
That's funny.
But in practice, one person does everything and then three people take the credit. And so then that one person's like, what the fuck? I did everything. And those three people were like, no,
well, we share everything.
Yeah. So communism, there is no functioning communist country.
Okay.
China, everyone points to China because it calls itself communist. It's not really communist. It still has billionaires. It still has huge private companies, a stock market. It essentially has a capitalist economy. And
it's like I can imagine this working for tiny countries, but not like China's massive.
I can't even imagine
a communist in such a big country. Like I just can't see that working.
And like, yeah, it's just, I could see it working maybe in a commune of 10 people. Communism, community, share everything. But communism is like a theory that someone wrote down on paper that was like, this is amazing.
Yes.
They didn't take into consideration human greed.
Yes, I was going to say.
Or authoritarian.
You'd have to be one type of person.
And everyone would have to be the same type of person.
And that just turns into a whole nother problem.
Well, yeah, one type of person.
Very conservative, it feels like.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then finally, because there are lots of different really technical ones, but we don't hear about them so much, so I'm not going to talk about them, mixed economy.
Okay.
So I feel like no one really talks about like the fact that not even the US is like pure capitalism. China's not.
Yeah.
pure communism. That's what I'm talking about. Like some countries have more socialist values. So like the US, it has public schools and public roads and things like that, public postal service, but then also like they have private healthcare and things like that. So it's a mixed economy where they own some, other people own some. Basically, that's just how things work. It's mostly capitalist, but then there's no country that also is like pure socialist. So those Nordic countries, they still have stock markets and private companies and things like that. They also, though, have like really high taxes, which means very generous public services, which is more socialist. So again, mixed economy. New Zealand, mixed economy. We have private businesses. We're all competing in a market, but we also have a public health system and public schools and broadcasting and things like that. So some things just should be run for profit and some things should be run for people. Yeah. That is a mixed economy. And so, that's a lot of learning about political systems and economic systems. But I think the most important thing to remember is that I actually think the political systems are more interesting to look at because basically everyone is capitalist or capitalist with a sprinkle of socialism or socialism with a sprinkle of capitalism. But it's the people enforcing these at the top and the countries that are moving into these different layers. And I'm sorry to say, none of these countries I mentioned are moving in a good direction in terms of the political leadership. We are seeing a global shift towards authoritarianism, fascism, dictatorship.
It's so scary.
It's very scary, but that's why it's we need to understand it.
Yes.
Because for example, the one good story in here about Hungary, they got the people up and mobilized and voted out a guy that was dismantling their democracy. You can still do that, but you have to know what you're up against.
Yeah, exactly.
And with this episode of the She Should Care About podcast, I hope you now know what you're up against. And I've been up against Abby's rumbling tummy for the last hour.
I'm sorry.
She's hungry. So now, everyone, now that we've done a big life lesson with Lucy, we're going to
really liked that.
Get some food. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, thank you very much.
Do you feel smarter after this episode?
Yes.
She feels like she's going to be a dictator now. She knows how to do it.
I actually really like dictatorship. I like the idea of that.
I really like the idea of that. Just me deciding everything. I'm kind of into it.
I want to be an oligarch.
Oligarch. You need to find some rich friends. I want me and my rich elite friends to be oligarchs.
Oh my God.
Everyone, we will see you next week for a less politically dense, but still equally as important and interesting discussion. Bye.
Bye, guys.